Hey, I said
Your Honor, the state would like to bring to your attention...
Mr. Richmond, back again so soon.
People versus Sturgeon, Your Honor.
There's obviously been some mistake.
That's what they all say.
I was in the grocery store minding my own business when two goons abducted me. Never read me my rights, never told me what I was being charged with.
Murder in the first degree.
It's ridiculous. I didn't kill anybody.
Where were you on Tuesday, June 10th of last year?
You're getting ahead of yourself, Mr. Richmond.
Your Honor, I'm innocent.
Mrs. Sturgeon, this is not a rock concert. Kindly conduct yourself appropriately.
Yes, Your Honor,
Here's a hint. Only when spoken to. Your parents did teach you that?
Yes.
Then not another peep unless otherwise directed. Now, have you counsel, or do you need one appointed to you?
No, I don't need counsel.
It's a simple yes or no answer, Mrs. Sturgeon. Either you have counsel or you don't. Unless you're one of those whack jobs who insists on representing herself.
Somebody please
Officer!
No! What are you? Stop!
You had fair warning, but insist on doing things the hard way.
Now, have you counsel, or will you be representing yourself today? I'll take that as a no on both counts. No need, Ms. Pierce. This is a closed proceeding.
I knew I should have taken that separation of church and state case.
You're familiar with the case?
I've glanced at the material, but am prepared to proceed as it appears to be a very straightforward case.
Very well, then.
Your Honor, my client wishes to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. Your Honor, I have written testimony and documentation from the defendant's psychiatrist that she was on Prozac at the time of the alleged murder.
Oh, please. I'm on Prozac. You don't see me running around killing people, do you?
Sustained.
Your Honor.
Sorry, counsel. I've got to go with the prosecution on this one. Half the nation's on Prozac, so you have to do better than that.
Your Honor, I'd like to consult with my client for a moment.
Since counsel has had no prior contact with her client, I'll allow it. 2 minutes, Ms. Pierce. Make good use of your time.
Thank you, Your Honor. I shall.
Oh, God. Thank God, these people are crazy.
Laura, listen to me. I've seen the evidence and it doesn't look good.
What evidence? I didn't kill anybody.
Our best hope is a plea bargain. Manslaughter, mandatory 10 years.
30 seconds, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm sure that Sherman will go for it.
Whose side are you on anyway?
Laura, take the deal. It is your only chance.
I am not admitting to something I didn't do.
If you don't take the deal, I can't guarantee you anything.
Time's up.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
What's your plea?
Innocent, Your Honor.
Duly noted. Now, Mrs. Sturgeon, in all fairness, I'm willing to remove that tape under one condition. You promise to behave. No outbursts, no hysterics. Understood?
Ow!
Only when spoken to, Mrs. Sturgeon.
Thank you.
Proceed.
The state would like to put into evidence Mrs. Sturgeon's medical record.
Hey, those are private.
The People's Need to Know Suspicious, Unlawful, or Otherwise Deviant and Amoral Activities Act allows the government access to any and all records, private or otherwise.
I beg your pardon, there's nothing deviant or amoral about me.
Then care to tell us why, on June 10th of last year, you chose to abort your unborn child?
Objection. Mrs. Sturgeon had a miscarriage, not an abortion.
Semantics, Your Honor. Counsel is fully aware that under the Champion the Unheralded Child Act, a woman can be held responsible for any and all actions deemed hurtful to, resulting in directly or otherwise, but not limited to, bringing about any irrevocable harm and or death to a child. Prosecution will prove the defendant's actions resulted directly in the premature and unlawful death of her unborn child.
Overruled.
Your Honor, my client was in a fragile state, both physically and emotionally. She can't be held
I
responsible.
don't write the law, I just interpret it.
As written, Mr. Richmond has every right to bring charges against your client.
Whether they're true or not, Ms. Pierce, is your burden of proof. Continue.
Mrs. Sturgeon, did you or did you not kill your child?
Objection. Fetus, not child, is defined by the New Lexicon Web...
Spare us the definition, counsel. Need I remind you the Supreme Court has already ruled on that? Life begins at conception. Intellectual, not physical conception.
Yes, but it's a ruling with which I vehemently disagree.
Your problem, not mine. Now quit crying over spilled milk and stop trying my patience. Mr. Richmond.
Mrs. Sturgeon, Did you not terminate a pregnancy last year?
I would like to advise my client that she is not obligated to answer that.
No, I want to. I have nothing to hide.
You just won't be happy until they throw away the key, will you?
Mrs. Sturgeon, did you terminate your pregnancy last year?
Objection.
I'll rephrase. Did you have a pregnancy end in termination?
Objection.
Rephrase again. Did your pregnancy go to term?
No.
And why is that?
I lost the baby.
I'm sorry, kindly repeat that.
I lost the baby.
Oh, I see, you lost the baby. Lost the baby. She says she lost her baby.
Who the hell are you talking to?
Sorry, Your Honor. Mrs. Sturgeon, would you admit this loss was largely due to your own negligence?
No!
Objection. Coercing.
You admit you had a complicated pregnancy.
Yes.
And the doctor warned you of the consequences if you did not heed his advice, did he not?
Well,
It's a yes or no question.
Badgering, Your Honor.
Overruled. Mrs. Sturgeon, answer Mr. Richmond's question.
well, yes, but
And kindly tell us what advice your doctor gave you.
to stay in bed.
You directly disobeyed his orders, didn't you?
No!
No. Are you saying you did not ignore your doctor's warnings? Need I remind you, Mrs. Sturgeon, perjury is a serious offense.
I tried. I did the best I could.
Oh, I see you did the best you could. She did the best she could, ladies and gentlemen.
Will you cut that out?
Sorry.
Jeez.
And isn't it true that instead of staying in bed like the doctor ordered, you chose to go to work?
I had to. I would have lost my job.
Chose work over the health and well-being of your child?
I had been in bed 3.5 months. 3.5!
Chose work, ladies and
Badgering,
gentlemen.
Your Honor. Prosecution is deliberately badgering my
You
client.
chose work, ladies and
My
gentlemen.
employer threatened to fire me if
Work
I didn't
over the
return
health
to work. If I
and
lost my
well-being
job,
of
I'd lose
your
my health
innocent
insurance.
Unborn child.
Mr. Richmond, you are not Perry Mason. Now rein it in or I'll sanction you. Are we clear?
Completely.
Good. Then proceed with caution.
State would like to call Mr. Sturgeon to testify.
Honey, thank God you're here. Sorry.
Mr. Sturgeon, you've been trying to conceive for a while, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, this was not your wife's first miscarriage, was it?
No, it was not.
How many had she had before?
3.
I'm sorry. That must have been difficult for you. Tell us, Mr. Sturgeon, as best you can, the reason for the multiple miscarriages.
Well, according to the doctor, my wife has an inhospitable uterus. Something like that. The egg just doesn't want to stick. They say it happens sometimes with women. Like a rotten apple falling from a tree.
And in order to ensure this baby made it to term, he advised her to stay in bed for the duration of the pregnancy, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And was that working?
It seemed to. It was the longest that she carried, anyway.
And how long was that?
12.5 weeks.
So you believe your wife did all she could to preserve the health and well-being of the child?
Objection.
Rephrase. Do you believe she did everything possible to preserve the health and well-being of the fetus?
Well, yeah. But.
Yeah, but what?
Laura.
No.
Watch it, Mrs.
I wanna
Sturgeon.
hear this. Yeah, but what?
It's just that. I never got the impression that she truly wanted children.
What?
She said on several occasions that she didn't think she'd make a good mother.
I was scared. What new mother isn't?
And when we first discussed having a family, I found out months later that she was still on the pill.
That was years ago. I wasn't ready then. I am now.
Laura, please.
Mrs. Sturgeon, I'm warning you.
Are you saying you believe your wife's feelings toward motherhood directly affected her ability to successfully carry to term?
Don't put words in his mouth.
That the negative and hateful thoughts she harbored toward motherhood produced a hostile environment?
Objection.
Mr. Richmond.
And that due to her own selfish desires,
I'm warning
she
you.
purposefully and willfully killed each and every one of your unborn
Your Honor.
children?
Mr. Richmond!
Yes, yes, yes!
My God.
Mrs. Sturgeon?
You son of a bitch. bitch. You goddamn son of a bitch!
Killed my son! My heir, my namesake, my flesh and blood!
Thank God I never had your children, you no good lousy prick. My uterus isn't the problem, it's your rotten seed.
Order! Order! Order!
Your Honor, Mrs. Sturgeon would like us to believe that she is the defenseless victim, but I submit to you that her true colors, those of a ruthless and cold-blooded murderer, are just now beginning to show.
Mr. Richmond, stop trying to do my job.
May I respectfully ask what the court intends to do?
Fortunately, counsel, my hands are tied.
While I'm not entirely satisfied with Mr. Richmond's case,
Mrs. Sturgeon has provided enough rope with which to hang herself.
under the law, there's only one thing I can do.
You mean?
Take her out back and throw her in the river.
What?
If she floats, we'll know she's lying. If she sinks, she's been telling the truth.
But I can't swim.
Don't worry, we're not that barbaric. There'll be paramedics on hand to revive you should you drown. Thank you all. Good day.
But you're not gonna let them do this to me, are you?
I told you to take the plea. If you spent more time watching your local politicians than your favorite reality TV stars, you wouldn't even be in this mess.
Another valiant effort, as always.
I'll get you one of these days.
I look forward to it. Hey, want to grab some lunch, my treat?
Sure, where?
That new place on the corner has a poached salmon salad to die for.
You're on.